Hello, it's Rhonda Thomas, and we're about to do Personal Finance Chapter 7 Static Problems. So let me go ahead and get things ready here to share my screen. Okay. Okay, so we are looking at Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is various credit alternatives. We can go to the ebook real quick just to double check the name of Chapter 7, Choosing a Source of Credit, the cost of credit alternatives. So if you need credit, there are different alternatives to consider. So let's get started so we can understand the terms of acquiring some credit. All right, so this one says Dave borrowed $600 for 1 year and paid $60 in interest. The bank charged him a service charge of $6. What is the finance charge on this loan? So I have it here in my spreadsheet, $660 for the interest, but they charged him a fee. Well, finance charge is interest and fees together. Okay, so what is the finance charge on the loan? It's both of those amounts together. Okay, so, all right, and then the second one has to do with that same problem. So if Dave borrowed $600 on January 1st and paid it all back at once on December 31st, so he made an annual payment at the end of the year, the bank charged him a service fee of $6 and an interest was $60. So same problem, but we're going to learn a term called annual percentage rate. This one, he takes the loan out at the beginning of the year and then pays the loan plus the service charge plus the interest back. So he made a total payment of $666. All right. So if you want to know what the annual percentage rate for this loan is, you take the finance charge. Here is the formula. Finance charge divided by the loan, right? So we take $66, divided by the $600 loan, and we get an 11% annual percentage rate. Okay, so once again, that's if you pay the loan back in one annual payment. Now let's take the same loan, right? And we're number 3, so we're still using the same loan. Now let's pay that loan back in 12 equal monthly payments. Okay, 12 equal monthly payments. Now this is kind of a complex formula, but I have it written out here, and this is the formula. It does include the number 2. It does include the +1. Okay, so that isn't numbers that come from somewhere. That's part of the formula. So I'm going to walk this through. But this is just for if you're paying back a loan with 12 equal monthly installments. Okay, what will be the annual percentage rate? And the fact that you're paying it back over 12 months, the interest is going to be higher. Okay, so let's see if we can walk through this. 2 times the number of pay periods in 1 year times the total dollar cost of credit. Now that is that finance charge, which is the interest plus any fees. Then the principal of the loan, which is the loan amount, times the total number of payments scheduled to pay off the loan, plus 1. All right, so here comes the numbers. 2 is part of the formula. 12 is the number of payments in 1 year. $66 is the finance charge of the loan. The loan is $600 times, and it's going to be paid back in 12 months plus 1. So when you do the math up here in the numerator and the math down here in the denominator, here's what you get. Okay, here's what you get. So you get 2 times 12 times 66. And that is $1,584. Then the denominator gets 600 times 13. Right? Yep. And then when you take the numerator divided by the denominator, you get 20.3. Be sure to put in the decimal, okay, or it won't accept it. Okay, so that's quite a bit more than the 11% up here, right? Yep. But they didn't tell us what those equal installments were going to be. But anyway, so, all right, let's go on to the next one. We have 2 credit cards to look at. And when you're trying to choose between credit cards, you basically need to ask yourself what you plan to do with it. So one card has no annual fee. Some cards have an annual fee. I think they're starting to get away from that now, though, but I don't know for sure. And so the one that has no annual fee has an 18% interest rate. The other has a $40 annual fee and an 8.9% interest rate. So I put both of those here side by side. The fee, the annual fee, okay, and that gets charged to the card. So you have to pay it in order to even have it active, I believe. Okay, I don't know. It would depend on the terms of the card. So the first scenario says if Bobby pays his credit card balance in full each month, which card should he choose? Well, paying in full each month, you shouldn't have to worry about the interest rate. And so therefore you want the 0 annual fee. Okay, so pick the one without the annual fee if you're not planning to carry a balance. But sometimes what you plan and what actually ends up happening is not the same thing. Okay, now the other one, it says if Bobby just pays the minimum payment and carries a balance from 1 month to the next, which card should he choose? Now we don't know what this balance is that he's carrying, but just considering the annual fees and the interest rates, they're suggesting that he consider this card because, and I'll show you what I mean when I show you some balances here. So the second one is if you're just going to pay the minimum payment and carry a balance, then you need to pick the one with the lower interest rate. Now I'm going to show you a couple things here before we move on. All right, so let's say that he carries $1,000 balance. Say he carries $1,000 balance. Let's say he buys groceries. He uses his credit card for all of his expenses. And he carries about $1,000 balance. If he does, then he's going to end up paying $180 a year. Okay, so then if you just take that same $1,000 and you run it through this card with 8.9%, he only pays $89 in interest, but you have to add that fee to it, but it's still less than this one. So here's what this should go into. It should matter how much he's planning to carry, because now let me show you. Let's try 500. Okay, so 500, this is still the more expensive card, but it's getting closer. Now let's put 400 in. Okay, so now this is the lower expensive card, right? This one's not charging as much as this one is, right? And if I go even lower, it is bigger yet. Okay, so $400 is a good amount is kind of it breaks over to the other direction, right? So once again, 500 that he carries. We're looking at this one costing 90 and this one costing 84.50, but just down to 400, and that is a different story. So this one becomes less expensive. Okay, this one's more expensive. So it does depend on what he carries. Okay, I just want to show you that. All right, some credit cards allow you to get cash right directly from them. However, most of the time they have a cash advance fee and what is usually known as a grace period. So a grace period is a certain amount of time that you can use a credit card and pay that credit card back before any interest starts to accrue, right? But when it comes to cash advances, because they really don't know what you're going to be doing with that cash, it's a little more risky. So, and this is how they make more money. So people, like if people are at a casino or whatever and they want cash, well, the first thing they're going to do, so let's go ahead. Let's hope that Sydney is not at a casino. So Sydney took a $200 cash advance by using checks linked to her credit card account. The bank charges a 2% cash advance fee on the amount borrowed and offers no grace period on cash advances. Sydney paid the balance in full when the bill arrived. So, one more time, no grace period means that the interest starts right away. All right, so if you take $200, or maybe she needed to have something done to a car in an emergency situation or something, and that would be a good reason to use the cash. Better yet, it would be better if she just paid for it with the card. But anyway, so let's start with the 2%. So it's 2% of the cash that you're being advanced. That's $4. Okay. So then if you take 200 times 18%, where am I at? Oh, what was the interest for 1 month at an 18% APR? So we take the borrowed amount times 18% times 1 over 12. This is your basic interest formula. I always leave my interest rate alone in the middle, and then I change my time to match. So if they said 1 month, well, it's 1 over 12. If they said what was the interest for a year, then I would say times 1, right? If they said how many days it was, I always go with the increment of time that they're using. Okay, so it's $3. So 200 times 18% times 1 over 12 is $3. So the extra fee involved with getting this cash advance is $7. Okay, when you add it together. So let me go ahead and finish this one here. Now, when she pays it back, she'll have to pay those $7 worth of fees plus the 200 cash advance. So when she pays it back, the total payment that she'll make is $207. Okay, so, yep. So if you take $7, now this is not what they're asking, I'm just taking this a little further. You take the $7 in the fees, also considered the finance charge, divided by the cash advance. We're actually looking at 4% for the cash advance of $200, right? So, and it may very well be worth it. Maybe had to get a tire fixed or something like that. But if you're at a casino and you just want more money to gamble, then you might not want to do that. Okay. Number 6, Dorothy lacks cash to pay for dishwasher that costs $600. She could buy it from the store on credit by making 12 monthly payments of $52.74. The total cost would then be $632.88. So I double checked their math here. Yep, that's right. Instead, Dorothy decides to deposit $50 a month in the bank until she has saved enough money to pay cash for the dishwasher. All right, so she's wanting to sock away $50 a month. She's going to wash her own dishes in the sink until she can afford the dishwasher. But 1 year later, she has saved $642. Okay, that's the 600 in deposits plus interest. So, I 1 year later. All right, so actually, 1 year later, she saved $642. All right, so let's do 12 months. Just a minute here. So if she socked this away in a savings account so that she would then have 50 times 12, that's $600. So they're saying she has 642. All right. And that's with the interest. 12 months of savings plus interest. Okay, that's what they're saying. Okay. But when she went back to the store, that dishwasher now costs $660. So, now she doesn't have enough. It's not quite, so if you take that amount that she saved plus her interest, it's only $18. Okay, so now she doesn't have to worry about paying any interest, and maybe she could just hold on 1 more month and doesn't even need to save that 50, just 18, right? So was postponing her purchase a good trade-off? In this case, no. But the thing is, we don't have a crystal ball. Okay, we do not know what the inflation is going to do, and what was 600 at the beginning of 1 year then goes up to 660 the next year. That's 10% inflation. Okay, and usually the average amount of inflation a year is around 2%, if that. Okay, but you can't always know what's going to happen, right? You can only go with what your gut says. Okay. I am going to pause. Okay, we're ready for number 7 now. Okay, as you've been pricing Samsung Galaxy smartwatch in several stores. 3 stores have identical price at $300. Each store charges 18% APR. Annual percentage rate has a 30-day grace period and sends out bills on the first of the month. On further investigation, you find that Store A calculates the finance charge by using the average daily method. Store B uses the adjusted balance method, and Store C using the previous balance method. All right, so here is what they're talking about. Credit cards differ in the way that they calculate the balance. Okay, how they figure the interest, and it's legal that they all do it differently. But I think there has been some standardization by the government here in recent times, but we have a method. So credit cards can use a method called, once again, the average daily balance method. Okay, so A, it says the average daily balance method. Store B uses the adjusted balance method, and Store C uses the previous balance method. Assume you purchased the smartwatch on May 5th and made a $100 payment on June 15th. All right, let's see if we can't figure this out. So one more time. Store A has a smartwatch for $300. They all have $300 watches. They all have an interest rate of 18%, but it's the method that they calculate the interest that's different. So we're purchasing the $300 watch on May 5th, and then we're making a payment of $100 on the balance on June 15th. And so let's calculate what the finance charges would be. What will the finance charge for June be if you made your purchase from Store A, B, or C? Okay, so here's how it's going to go. Here's the formula. Okay, here's the formula right here for, you put this one down, this is called the average daily balance. Average daily balance method. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with 300, which is what the watch cost. And then we paid 100. Now, once again, we're talking about June, the month of June, right? So in June, we paid $100. So that's the difference in the two balances. 300 was at the beginning of June, and then the ending balance of June was 200 because we made a $100 payment. All right, and then we're going to do the math here. So 500 divided by 2 equals $250. Okay, and then here's what you do. You take the $250 times 18% times 1/12. Okay, and there it is. There it is. So you do this part first, and then the rest of it. And it turns out that Store A was $375 for the finance charge for the month of June. Okay, now let's try the next one. And I will put a square around this one too. All right, and then I'm going to name them. I should have done that better, but that's okay. All right, so then this next one is called the adjusted balance method. Okay, go ahead and put method. This is interest calculation, right? Credit card interest calculation. And all three of them are different, right? So this is the adjusted balance method. And then this is the previous balance method. All right, so then this one takes your beginning balance, subtracts any payment, okay, times 0.18 times 1/12. So 200 times 0.18 times 1/12. Remember, 1/12 is because it's just for 1 month. So $300 is the finance charge for carrying a balance on the card, right? There's still a balance. Okay. And then the final one is the previous balance method. Well, it doesn't even take into account any payment that was made. It's simply just 300 times 0.18 times 1/12. Okay, so Store C has the calculation method that produces the largest amount of finance charge for these three stores. Okay, so you just, and a lot of people don't understand what method a certain card that they might have, how they calculate it. But it would be good to know that. Okay, moving on. Number 8. Okay, number 8 says, what are the interest costs and total amount due on a 6-month loan of $3,000 with an interest rate of 13.2% simple annual interest. Well, let me pull this up here. All right, we're looking at a $3,000 loan. $3,000. Okay, we're looking at 13.2%. We're looking at 6 months. So loan amount times interest times time. Loan amount, that's how you figure interest. This is the interest formula. Okay. And now we're going to take 3,000 times 0.132 times 6 over 12. And you say, why did you pick 6 over 12? Why didn't you just use a half? Because they said 6 months. And I go with whatever increment that they're working on. Okay, so that way I try to keep in mind what they're saying. All right, so 3,000 times 0.132 times 6 over 12 gives you, let's see here, we've got to back up and put 3,000 in here. All right, there we have it. So looks like the interest cost is $198. Okay, and therefore, to pay this back, we would pay $3,198. I believe that is correct. Okay. Number 9. Okay, this next one is a little bit more complex. Okay, this has to do with buying a vehicle. After visiting several automobile dealerships, Richard selects the used car he wants. He likes its $10,000 price, but financing through the dealer is no bargain. He has $2,000 cash for a down payment, so he needs a loan for $8,000. In shopping at several banks for an installment loan, he learns that interest on most automobile loans is quoted at add-on rates. That is, during the life of the loan, interest is paid on the full amount borrowed, even though a portion of the principal has been paid back. Richard borrows $8,000 for a period of 4 years at an add-on interest rate of 11%. Okay, taking one thing at a time. Let's write down what we have. We have a $10,000 car price. We have a $2,000 down payment. That leaves us with an $8,000 loan. Okay, so the add-on interest is 11%, and the loan has 4 years. This is an add-on loan. Interest is paid back. Interest is paid back. Hold on just a second. Interest is paid back or calculated. Interest is calculated and paid on the full amount. the loan. Here we go. Full amount of the loan borrowed, even though a portion of the principal has been paid. So we'll explain it to you here in just a second. All right, much more interest paid at the dealership add-on loan. So dealerships have these kinds of loans a lot more than banks or financial institutions. And the reason is because if you can't get an auto loan from a financial institution, then because of not enough credit or bad credit or whatever the situation is, then dealerships kind of take advantage of that from whoever's buying their vehicle, that they couldn't get a loan elsewhere. So once again, regular loans, they only charge interest on the balance of the loan. So as you're paying down on the loan, you're paying less interest. Okay, so let's walk through this. This one is, what is the total interest on Richard's loan? Now we're talking about the loan. The loan is $8,000. So we're taking 8,000 times 0.11 times 4 years. So if you do the math inside of here, you get an interest of $3,520. Okay, for the whole loan. B, what is the total cost of the car? Now we go back to the price. The price plus the interest that we just found. Okay, the total interest. So let me put total interest. Okay, is both of those combined, 13,520. Okay, that's total cost of the car. Okay, what is the monthly payment? All right, so now we got to go back to the loan amount, right? Because the one above us is the total cost of the car. Now we're just going to be talking about the loan. And we're borrowing $8,000 because we put $2,000 down as a down payment. So then you take the loan plus the interest, 11,520, and then you divide by 48. It said 48 months. What is the monthly payment? I want to make sure it's 40. Yes, 48, because it's 4 years. Okay, 4 years, and then 4 times 12 is 48. So, because they said it was a 4-year. Yes, for a period of 4 years. There it is. Period of 4 years. So we need to know it by the month. All right, so month is 12 months times 4 years. There's how we know that. So once again, we take the loan plus the interest, divide by 48, and we get a payment of $240,000. Sorry, $240 a month. Okay, a month. Now, we're going to use that bigger annual percentage rate problem because we're paying this loan back $240 a month, right? So let's go ahead and put in the information to find the APR. Let's remember the formula. 2 times the number of pay periods in 1 year times the total dollar cost of credit. Principal times total number of payments scheduled to pay off loan plus 1. So it becomes 2 times 12 times $3,520. Remember, that is the total interest that we found. And then 8,000 times 48 total months plus 1. So here is your numerator, here is your denominator. Okay, and then look, it goes back. Copy those and bring them down. Okay, so then you have your numerator is 84,480 and your denominator of 392,000. And you do the math here and take your numerator and divide by your denominator, and you get 21.55% annual interest rate. Okay, 21.55. So there's several things in there you have to be careful about, but they said the loan interest was 11%, but here's what the annual percentage rate calculated. All right, let's just make sure that I am right. Got it. All right, let's move on. Just a few more here. Number 10. Damon convinced his aunt to lend him $1,500 to purchase a digital TV. He has agreed to charge only, it should say she has agreed to charge only 5% interest and he has agreed to repay the loan at the end of 1 year. How much interest will he pay for the year? All right, so you take your loan amount times your interest rate, and it's really for 1 year. So the 1 is in there. You just don't see it. So one more time, using our new interest rate interest rate formula. Let me put this in. The loan. Okay, I don't want you to. So the loan amount. But once again, it's principal times interest rate times time. So we have $1,500 loan times 0.05 times, and this is for 1 year. Right? Yep. The 1 is there. All right, and then it's $75 is the interest amount. So at the end of the year, he'll have to pay his aunt back $1,575. Okay. This should say she has agreed to charge only 5% interest, and he has agreed. So this needs to be she. You need to let them know because it's not right. Okay, let's go to number 11. Okay, this is a little bit weird, but you can buy an item for $100 on an in-store payment plan with the promise to pay $100 in 90 days. Suppose you can buy an identical item for $95. So we're looking at the difference in the item of $100 and $95. If you buy the item for $100, you are in effect paying $5 for the use of 95 for 3 months. What is the effective annual rate of interest? Ignore interest rate compound. So here's what it is. Item is worth 95. Okay, there's an option to pay $100, which is $5 more in 90 days, or you can pay the cash today. So what is the difference? The difference is $5. Okay, so what is the interest rate of $5? What is the interest rate of a $5 cost to borrow 95? Remember, interest is the cost of borrowing money. So we're looking at annual interest amount. It's $5 divided by 3 months times 12. Okay, so it's a $20 annual interest amount. Okay, if that was extended out to an annual amount. So then we take 20 annual interest amount and divide it by the $95 item cost. Okay, so one more time. Number one, what's the annual interest amount? The annual interest amount is $5 divided by 3 times 12. So here it is, 5 divided by 3, put those in parentheses, times 12. And you have $20. Then you take the 20 annual interest amount and divide by the $95 item cost. And you get 21.02%. Okay, 2 more. Number 12, Rebecca wants to buy a saddle for her horse. The only one she wants usually costs $500, but this week it's on sale for $400. She does not have $400, but she could buy it with $50 down and pay the rest in 6 months with 10% interest. What is the amount saved buying the saddle this way? So now let's go through this. So it's a saddle. It regularly costs $500, but right now it's on sale for $400. She has $50 put down as a down payment, so then she's going to finance the rest, 10%, and just for 6 months. Okay, so here it is, $350 times 10% times 6/12, which is the length of loan. So it turns out that $1,750 is the interest, and $1,750 is the interest. And so therefore, the sales price, so if this is the price of the saddle, and this is the amount of the interest added together, it's $417.50. Here's your regular price of the saddle. Here's your new sales price with the payment plan. The difference is $82.50. $82.50. Okay? And so it pays to watch sales and maybe understand the pattern of the company when they offer certain sales and so forth. So sometimes when something is on sale, it may not be on sale again, period. So you kind of have to make that choice. All right, last one. Okay, here's how it goes. Your uncle lends you $2,000 less $100, which is interest at 5%, and you receive $1,900. Use the AP formula to find the true annual percentage rate. Assume you repay the entire loan at the end of the year, what it should say, at the end of the year. So let's go ahead and put in what we know. This is called a discounted loan. Discounted loan. And the reason it is because they deduct the interest from the loan proceeds. So any other kind of a loan, you would get the full $2,000 to go and use it as you had planned, right? But this kind of a loan actually takes interest off the top, right? Or interest is deducted from the loan proceeds. Now we're down to $1,900. You have 1 year to repay. the annual percentage rate is 100 divided by 1900. Okay, so I went ahead and did the math there, but we're going to go ahead and work this through this calculation. So 2 times 1 pay period times 100, 1900 is the principal. Yep, not the 2 grand because 100 of it was discounted. Okay, so the principal is actually 1900 times 1 plus 1. Remember, the 2 and the last plus 1 in the denominator are fixed variables in this formula. All right, let's do the math. 2 times 1 times 100 is 200. Now, so once again, here's your numerator and your denominator. All right, and then, so the top becomes 200, and the bottom becomes 3,800. And when you take 200 divided by 3,800, you get 5.263. Okay, 5.263. So that is the same number. And that finishes our problems for chapter 7. Okay, let me check my work. Make sure I've got it. Very good. All right. Thank you for being patient. I'll stop sharing my screen and say good night. Good night. Have a good one. See you at the next video.